social impact in tech. We wanted to take a moment. We always like to do this because without our sponsors and our hosts, these events wouldn't be possible. So the first thing we want to do is thank our hosts, the Google Launchpad, and especially our sponsors, Morgan Stanley, this evening. So if you don't mind me, thank you. Before we get started, just a couple of quick things. We wanted to get a lay of the room. How many of you guys are entrepreneurs? Raise your hands. Do we have any investors in the room? Okay. How many of you guys, this is your first Kiwi event you've ever been to? What do you think? Persian Women in Tech. Fantastic. So that's a pretty good number. And how many of you guys work in social impact already? So a little bit about Persian Women in Tech. It is a 501c3. It was started 3 years ago. It is basically an organization all about elevating the profile of women in technology. Doesn't just have to be Persian. We are open to everyone. We have a bunch of events like these set up panels where we have different people come in talking about different themes, different things that are going on in the industry. About once a month we host an event. Since December is a fairly busy month of holidays, we chose not to go this summer. And we also have a conference. So this year we actually did our first annual conference in February, and we will have another one next year, so you should look out for that. So I encourage you guys to get involved. If you are interested in getting involved with the actual organization, we are looking for people in our San Francisco chapter. So come speak to me. I can definitely share more information with you. We also have Samira and Radin as well in the audience. They're also a part of the chapter. So definitely encourage you if you're looking to get involved in your community, come talk to us. Couple of quick things. Food, beverages, please get up, grab some, enjoy it. We do have a raffle going on in the back, so if you didn't get a chance to put your name in, we'll be pulling that right at the end. And otherwise, questions and answers, if you could hold that to after the panel. We'll have a couple of minutes right after the panel to go through questions. I would like to introduce Mike. He's going to do a quick intro from Morgan Stanley, and then we will have our panelists come up and we'll get the evening started. Thank you, guys.
Thank you everybody for coming on a rainy night. Took a little bit to get here, but my name's Mike Welch. I'm a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley, and my partner Juan Thai and I are really happy to be here to be involved, participating in a great event. And you know, the theme tonight is social impact in tech, and I think that kind of dovetails what we do as financial advisors, because Juan and I really specialize in working with people in the tech community to help put all the pieces of their financial picture together. And one of the ways that we do that is to integrate values-based investing within one's personal portfolio. And just a quick few points about Morgan Stanley, because this is an issue that we're committed to as a firm. Morgan Stanley has, in 2012, we developed the Morgan Stanley Institute for Sustainable Investment. And it's really a resource to create thought leadership and provide tools to investors to help them harness the power of their own personal capital and align their values with their investments. And it's funny that the impact comes up because that's the investment platform is called Impact Investing at Morgan Stanley. And what this is, it's a platform for investing that touches upon ESG, which is environmental, social, government issues and initiatives. It includes things like climate change, gender diversity. So we have a platform to address investments for all these types of initiatives, whether it's through the course of 120 mutual funds, exchange-traded funds, so we can help investors align their personal values with their portfolio. So I won't go on too much longer, but I just want to thank everybody for coming and allowing us to participate in this. We have more information about a couple topics if you'd like to learn more about that. Juan and I will be here to answer any questions, and we look forward to a great evening. Thank you.
We're going to get our panelists and our moderator up here. Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our last event of 2018. I was thinking today about one of my favorite words. It's called syzygy, and it's the perfect alignment of three celestial bodies, so the Earth, the Moon, and the Sun. And I think today actually aligns quite well with Giving Tuesday. Giving Tuesday is something that didn't exist before, right? So with the advent of technology and social media, and now we have this day where we can all communicate and spread and manifest what our commitments are to the causes that we care about. And the technology has really enabled us to allow for resonating with other friends and getting people involved and sharing. And it allows for reflection about what's important to us. So I thought today was just, theme of social impact, and Giving Tuesday was really wonderful. So I hope everyone's had fun thinking about, where they want to give and what they want to commit to. And for me, it's also interesting because I did transition from finance to tech. I'm a connected and autonomous vehicle and transportation smart city specialist. And where that came from was, seeing how I could take everything that I advocate for and the day-to-day basis, so environmental justice and food insecurity and, economic development, seeing how everything can come together. And I found that transportation was kind of that node that connected all of the policy areas and kind of the societal shortcomings that I was seeing together. And the transition came after speaking to a lot of really inspiring people, such as the folks on panel today, and seeing how other folks have taken everything that they advocate for on a day-to-day basis, whether for their business and through their work, or after work hours, right? But then bringing it all together and seeing how they can pursue it through their corporations, or through passion projects, or through entrepreneurial endeavors. So with that, I'd like the panel to share their story, their background, and how their various passions and advocacy pursuits came into their organizations and companies.
Thank you. My name is Firuzeh. My passion kind of started pretty early. We have 2 minutes to do this work, but I'll stick to that. But it started my childhood. I lived in Iran in 1979 when the revolution happened, and my mom was very politically active. I was in the streets of Iran when the Khomeini landed, and it was a very big part of my childhood. And like many others of that generation, we moved to the U.S. after the war, and it was a big part of my awakening politically. And years later, it's still with me. I was an environmental activist for many years and worked in the global south on environmental justice. I've seen more landfills in Africa and India than I've seen anything else in those parts of the world. And then the uprising in Iran happened in 2009. And most Iranians in diaspora woke up to their Iranianness, and there was this hope and this vision of what we can have. And everyone was so proud of what was going on in Iran. We were also relieved that for the first time there was this distinction that was clear in the world between the people of Iran and what's happening to them. So I organized a global day of solidarity, which was the right thing at the right time, and it became the biggest day of support for the people of Iran in history. Then 110 cities and rallies and protests that evolved into me transitioning from my UN job and starting United for Iran in my kitchen. And my husband's like, "Are you sure this is what you're doing?" I'm like, "Absolutely." And for the first few years, I had no idea what I was doing. I was learning, and we did amnesty-style campaigns. And little by little, activists inside the country left as refugees after being imprisoned and shut away from the schools, and including my co-director there, who I met while I was in Turkey, and became a consultant and program director and co-director. And then after the amnesty piece, we started doing the caregivers of all the political prisoners in Iran, and prisons and judges, and running that and working with the UN and governments and families inside the country. And then we expanded beyond human rights work to do civil liberties work. engage average citizens in the way they want to be engaged, and the level of risk they want to take. So we started a project called Incubator, in which we use technology to build mobile apps, mostly Android. We built about 10 in the last 2 years, and they run the gamut between domestic violence, recovering addicts, documentation of violations, and we'll talk about that more. So that's the work I do now, and it's evolved and I've grown and learned with it. Thank you so much.
Hi everybody, my name is Soraya Fouladi. I'm the founder and CEO of Jara. We build personal education devices like these, so children in refugee camps and post-disaster zones can learn anywhere, anytime, uninterrupted. So my journey, it started actually, it was kind of bred into me growing up. So I went to the United Nations School growing up, during 12th grade. It's an international school where we represent over 150 nations and learn international history, international languages, and everything under the sun. And we also learn about modern day issues, even from first grade. So when I was very young, I was quite aware of famine, I was quite aware of environmental disasters, natural disasters, and so much more. And it was around high school that I really made the decision that I want to create the biggest impact in this planet, in this lifetime I have. And I wanted to figure out what was the root cause of so many of the world's issues right now. And if you could figure out the root cause, then maybe we could figure out the root solution. So through research, through talking to people, United Nations, everywhere else, we concluded it was really lack of access to quality education and access to quality information too. So the question was, how do we scale quality education and information to people, especially the most under-resourced regions of the world? That's where the idea for a device like this came from. And I was very lucky that a mentor at the time taught me that I didn't have to be 40 or 50 to start a business. I could start at any age. So from that moment on, I started designing my life so I could become the best person to start this initiative. So I took jobs in education, I got a degree in electrical engineering, took jobs in the humanitarian space, business management, consulting, and so much more, and then moved out to the Bay Area about 2 years ago and started this. So yeah, I really started at the core of my root, and that's, I call it the impact venom. Once you get bit by the impact venom, you're in the world of impact for life.
Somehow holding two right now. So hi, my name is Doug Stella, and I have to apologize for the picture over there because that was before I had 2 kids, so I've lost some hair since then. So anyone has kids, they know exactly what we're talking about. But, so I work for a company called Legg. It's an asset management firm. Everybody hear me? It's an asset management firm. We manage about $760 billion. We do a lot of work in the environmental social governance space. But my journey began around 1998, 1999. I was working in New York at a company called Solomon Brothers, which is a pretty big Wall Street firm. I was an equities and derivatives trader. Back then, it was the dot-com era, and people were sort of making money hand over fist. But by 2000, things were starting to top out, and people were starting to get worried about money evaporating. A lot of stocks went down, companies went bankrupt. And I started thinking that there's just got to be some better way to finance or investing than just maximizing profits and worrying about being laid off all the time. And so I started looking around in my company, and I got transferred to another area. It was in Citigroup Asset Management, which owned Solomon Brothers at the time. And what I started finding out is that some of the biggest investors in the world, which are pension funds, insurance companies, government entities, even religious organizations, were doing something different. And what they were doing is they were investing really to make an impact. Basically, to Mike's point, they wanted to have investments that were in line with their values. So back then, it was called socially responsible investing. It was about avoiding things or the same stocks. But what was happening is you were avoiding big sectors that you were losing out on a lot of investment returns. So right around 2005, at the UN, Secretary General Kofi Annan actually put out a white paper that went out to 50 different institutions that was talking about the principles of responsible investing and about fostering change through investments. And from that point forward, there was a new industry that sprung up. It was called environmental social governance, ESG. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. But it was very interesting. It was spawned after that. 1,600 companies, investment companies, have signed on to these principles for responsible investing since that time period. So it's gotten very large. And then over the past 2 years, it's evolved even more to what's called impact investing. And impact investing is basically being a large shareholder in a lot of these companies. We found that people are starting to listen to us because we have a lot of capital invested in their companies. So lo and behold, the people that are interested in impact investing have been mostly women and millennials, and that's where a lot of the money is going right now. And so, hopefully by the time the night's over, we'll talk about some of the things that we're doing in that space.
Thank you all for sharing your stories. So with social impacts, the ultimate goal, whether incremental or whether it happens overnight, is systems change. And sometimes we need a spark from outside of formal institutions such as government or business or the big nonprofits that are doing things in a traditional way that have kind of missed some of the solutions, some of the opportunities to happen in order to affect the system change. So how have you folks, I know initially there's excitement and you have some folks in your inner networks who come and support, but how do you lend a lens to other folks who are traditionalists, who don't have the vision that you have at that time, and how do you get them excited? How do you get people into your network to kind of have that change, resonate outward and build momentum?
With our work, we like to say that not only do we work for, but with our communities. With civic technology, one has specific actors, and the activist part is much more critical than the technology. You get a group of technologists in the room, they'll build you really fancy, awesome apps, but it'll be the wrong app. So it's really critical to be on the ground and to know who you're working with, and for the work to be the extension of their efforts. The same way I wouldn't go in someone else's house and start redecorating it, like if you want me to help move boxes, which ones do you want me to move? If you want to see change in the world, you look at that community, see what they need and want. If a tech solution is needed, sometimes it's not. Sometimes a Facebook page is fine. And if there is one that's needed, what does it look like and how is the extension of their work so they can scale the work and their impact and go from there.
Thank you. I really have to echo that. That's part of the core value of our organization, is assuming nothing and listening to the communities we're looking to empower. One of the most important things is that our users aren't others, they're actually part of the team. They're the ones who co-create the solution with us. And if you're ever trying to go into the humanitarian space, and if you're ever trying to change the world, you really need to bring everyone to the table. That's the users you're looking to empower, that's the governments, that's the NGOs, corporations, everyone needs to come to the table to make it happen, especially if you're trying to make a very large-scale impact like we are. Currently, we have 264 million children out of school right now, and 1 billion children in poverty. And that number is not getting any better. So it really requires everyone at the table to make a change happen, and it really requires a lot of listening and spending time in the communities, which we do. The whole process is research, validation, pre-pilot, and then a launch, only if all those are shown that that community truly needs a solution like this, and that we can really co-create that. Because it really needs to preserve cultural roots, especially as we build tech for good. And what do you see as your timeline? For example, for Doug, with the investments that you encourage folks to make, where do you see that fine line of getting returns on that investment and the impact coming in? And are folks comfortable with that, knowing that maybe that return on investment will come later down the line, and how do you get folks excited about making that initial investment?
Yeah, so I would say that what we do at my firm, at Legg, we have an affiliate underneath our corporate umbrella called ClearBridge. ClearBridge is our environmental social governance arm. And so what we do is we assign letters to all of the companies that we follow. So for example, when we look at companies, we assign them either a single B, single A, double A, or triple A rating. And so a single B would mean that the companies don't really care too much to engage without environmental social governance issues, so in our opinion, they're uninvestable. Single A is companies that they understand that there's something there, they don't know exactly how to utilize it, but they're looking for guidance. Double A is they're starting to put things in place, and then triple A is sort of the gold standard. Everybody's sort of on board, the CEO is on board, the employees are on board, and they're making big kinds of changes. So I would say that, just to kind of give you an example of how we measure this kind of impact, a lot of the companies that come through our offices, especially in New York, want to know where they stand on that letter grading system. It's almost become this prominent thing of what letter are we? Where are we in environmental social governance? Because people are starting to think about things as far as being stakeholders rather than shareholders. Shareholders are worried about maximizing profits. Stakeholders are more involved with how they impact the community, how they impact things like the supply chain, the environment, diversity, and issues like that. So, I'll just give you an example of something that we've done to foster some change. Right now, probably one of the biggest things that we're working on is diversity on corporate boards. There's a company that we've been engaging with for the past few years as a pretty big media conglomerate, sitting in this Discovery Channel. They own the Oprah Winfrey Network, they own the Family Channel, and everything that you see that's really geared towards family. And we found out is that they don't have, well, back when we started engaging with them, they don't have any women on the board. And so we went and have written a paper about, over a long time periods, how more women, more diversity on the board correlates to better performance for stocks and actually drops the bottom line. And we engaged them, went back and forth, and it was because we engaged with them that they ended up voting and getting their first woman on the board. They're about to get their second woman on the board. And so we just thought it was amazing that a company that was geared towards women and family never had that before. And we engaged with them and we actually changed something for the better. So I would say that, that's sort of the beginning of, there was a company that was a single A rated company, it was now more like double A and moving up in it. So that's sort of how we're gauging whether or not what we're doing is working.
And then Soraya and Firuzeh, what about for you folks? I know you've been with your current position for 9 years now, and then you've just started. So how do you kind of see your timeline, and how do you set goals for your impact?
So the way I think about it, if things are going really shitty, there's a lot of work to be done. If things are going well, we have a lot of momentum, we should keep going. So the important work has to happen. And you just do it and you reiterate and take stock and have feedback loops and continue to work. And impact, we can have vanity metrics, we're talking about it on the right here. We have those that we look at. We also look at level of engagement of the apps day to day. How much are they used inside the country? For example, one of our best apps is used, was it 7,000 times a month? 7,000 users?
Talking about Amazon, it's 14,000.
14,000 users use this one app once a week. That's probably our strongest app. So we look at these numbers, the level of engagement. And also the impact is qualitative as well, the stories that we hear and the ripple effect of that. So, yeah, all of that.
Thank you. Sure. So, our dream is for a company to not need to exist anymore, because every single child on this planet will have access to the education they deserve. But until that day comes, we will not rest. And, in this process, we do need to have, some goals and everything so that we can, keep going and ensure we're have an impact that we need to see. So impact metrics are one of the most important parts of our business. But one big milestone is 2030. It's predicted that by 2030, 65% of the global GDP will be made up of emerging markets, only if they educate those children today, which they're not. And that's only about 11 years till we get there. We are in a huge education crisis that the world's not talking about. So we're here to make a lot of noise about that first and show there's a lot of, this is a big issue and this is how we're solving it effectively in a co-creative way. So by 2030, we hope to have made a lot of impact in various countries. We already had 15 independent countries reach out to us interested in co-creating and implementing the solutions in their countries. So, we're on the journey now.
Wonderful. And then you actually touched upon something important is measuring impact. And the definition for how to measure social impact keeps changing. And more, focusing on foundations or investors are asking their investees, I guess you could say, or folks that they're trying to support, how they are measuring their impact, and they want impact reports, et cetera, et cetera. So Soraya and Seth, how do you folks measure impact? Is it quantitative? Is it qualitative?
For us, it's a mix of both. So I'll talk a little bit more about the device itself. So this is one of the prototypes. We're currently in the process of building this out. And part of this process, so a little bit about the device, it's an IoT device, which means Internet of Things. That means it can be updatable and you can pull data from this. A lot of the areas we work in don't have consistent access to internet, so we have a whole network using phone networks and Bluetooth to make this happen. The device charges with crank power and solar cells, so children can use this anywhere, anytime. And because this is a device, we're able to track the student's use of it. We have quizzes on this to ensure the child is actually learning effectively. We measure this with how effectively were they passing the national exam before. Now with this device, what's the change? And the list goes on. There's also a community development part of this. This is not a device where a child goes to the corner and uses in silo only. It's used as a supplement to under-resourced classrooms and also a solution for out-of-school children. So there's a plethora of impact metrics, which is very unique to us because a lot of education initiatives struggle to get those, day-to-day metrics because it's hard to, always track what's happening for each child in a school of 300 kids in a very remote region. But with something like this, it's updatable. We can pull data in a low cost, low energy way that's really rooted in their local cultures.
Well, I would say on the investment impact, as far as environmental, social, governance goes, I think what we're trying to do at ClearBridge and through Legg is try to get all the companies that we're investing with to get from single A to triple A. And so we've actually become more of a consultant to a lot of different firms where they're actually asking us about ways to be more impactful because they're starting to recognize that things sort of drop to the bottom line. So I thought maybe I'd just give you an example. I've done it a few times already that companies that we're working with that quantify some of the changes that they make. So I'm more of like a society impact, and then also as an environmental impact. We've been working with a company called Home Depot. I'm sure most people know what Home Depot is around the Bay Area or around the United States, but Home Depot is someone that we've worked with a lot on pay equality and different kind of benefits in workplace, work-life balance, and making sure that even people on the bottom of the corporate food chain are getting stock options and things like that. But a few years back, we noticed that they had a pretty big global footprint in that their distribution centers were absolutely gigantic. And they were located in certain parts of the country that were very far away from a lot of their stores. And so what happened was they had to get into trucks and truck all of these big things into the Home Depot stores. And it was causing a lot of fuel consumption and adding to their global footprint. So we suggested with investor relations, which got to the CFO and also the CEO, that they create smaller distribution centers that were closer to the stores. And what they ended up doing was they ran the metrics and they found that not only was this more impactful in helping the environment by cutting down fuel consumption, but actually they saved a lot of money on fuel consumption. And as they started building out these different distribution centers, the money that they saved on fuel, they promised us and a few other investors that were involved in it, that they were going to take that money and plow it back to the company and hire at, on average, about one extra employee at every Home Depot around the country. And so how that affects, change, how you can quantify it is people are being employed. When you go to the store, there's people that are walking around that are giving you more service. You're getting your answers quicker. You're having a better customer experience. And then, also you're cutting down on the global, on the environmental footprint. So, there are ways that we're doing things that you don't really understand how it goes through the system, and then it starts dropping to the bottom line, and you're able to quantify it. I think it's really interesting, and people are really starting to catch on what's going on in the ESG space.
Absolutely, and it helps that we're in the era of big data, right? So you can grab everything, process it, and see, those points of efficiency. Soraya and Firuzeh, so a lot of, what you work with along the lines of technology is done through co-empowerment and co-creation, as you mentioned. What role has technology, played in helping you reach beyond borders and, kind of scale your impact to, I know you work in Nepal, for example, to kind of scale your impact beyond just, your point of localization?
So, it's 4 to 8 here, and it's 7:15 in Iran. It's literally across the planet. It's a country that's relatively close. Some of us cannot go back, and we're trying to affect change literally across the planet. And it's in this kind of situation that technology can be useful. And we have an extremely young population in Iran, and all of the Middle East really. They're very plugged in, more than probably 50 million smartphones now in the country, 4G is pretty common. So everyone's plugged in, and not just in northern Vietnam, but throughout the country. So technology is allowing us to have access and work with individuals and partner and reach individuals literally across the planet and throughout the country, both rural and urban areas.
Thank you. So as you can tell, our solution is a technology-based solution, and we chose a solution because as a society, we've exhausted every other solution to scale quality education, especially to remote, underserved children in the world. So that's the only reason we're even building hardware. If we could use something off the shelf, we would have done that, but we've already seen initiatives try that. And for many reasons that didn't work, for example, using an iPad or an Android tablet, a child is not able to charge it anytime, anywhere, because they need access to power on the ground, which is minimally available, for example. So firstly, our solution is tech-based in itself. And for us to actually create the global impact that we're seeking to create, that requires access to other pieces of technology, especially on the core teams and all the way to locals on the ground. The locals on the ground, we hire locals on the ground full time to be the ones to distribute the devices, to teach children how to use it, to fix it if they ever break, and to facilitate the continuous use of them and to do updates especially. And in the updates, it requires some piece of technology too. So our team is all over the world. And we're starting in Nepal, then scaling globally. So we have a Nepal hub to start, and then we have hubs everywhere in order for us to communicate all this technology that enables us to communicate, get our impact metrics in real time. It's an incredible time. The time is more or less now for something like this to exist in the world.
So we have a room full of technologists with hard skills and soft skills, some who work in the social impact space already. Doug, can you share with us some kind of emerging and popular social impact spaces that you're kind of keeping track of and have your hand on the pulse
So I think we're at a firm level, we're trying to figure out a lot more about behavioral finance. And so, we're starting to measure a lot more things on quantifiable scales instead of just looking at the qualitative factors. So, we are working on algorithms. We're working on Google searches on how people react to certain things. So, for example, like when Volkswagen cheated on the emissions, everyone's familiar with that. They were thinking more about profits and how it affects the environment, and there was a lot of negative reactions to that. And still, to this day, there's a lot of people that won't buy Volkswagen at all because of what they did. So what we're doing is we're trying to integrate a lot of technology on Google searches, on Twitter accounts, on how people are reacting to certain things. Because people are concerned with sort of how it integrates, sort of how it affects everything from supply chains to workers to even the status of the company. Because if you're in the news all the time, you're being sued. It's people don't want to use your products, and you become a less profitable company. So there is a big qualitative factor that we're focusing on right now, but I think the next stage is going to be much more quantifiable or quantitative, and I think that's sort of the new places that we're going.
Wonderful. And Soraya and Firuzeh, where do you see, that intersection of technology and advocacy evolving to? Do you see more and more companies and corporations supporting smaller nonprofits or endeavors such as yours, or do you see that there will be more and more springs of, small startups that will grow and evolve to tackle social issues? How do people, where do they take that first steps? Is it through volunteering? Is it, setting off, swallowing that pill to go solo and, solve that issue? Or where do you see everything kind of coming together for folks?
I think technology is a catch-all phrase. It's a tool like anything else. And perhaps there will be people who will talk about the phone when it first came out. As phones wouldn't be used to do our work. But we're going to call people on the phone to make change. So, and it can be effective or not, and the devil's in the details. So I think there will be all of it, you said. People going off and doing smaller things, or bigger companies using technology in a specific way, and there'll be a combination of all, and that will be effective or not, and we'll learn and iterate from that. And with getting involved, that's the second part, right? I think, for example, with us, through our incubator, we helped our community members build about a dozen apps, 10 apps. And I do a lot of people speaking about the work, and a lot of it is at civic tech conferences, and a lot of people who are interested in supporting, and some do UI UX, some do security work, some do programming, and they have become involved with that work and done part of the work. So there's a way for most folks to get involved, and there's also a way of proactively looking at the area we're interested in. You mentioned what areas are close to your heart, and the application now is kind of the nexus of it, so each of us has one. Whatever makes our heart skip a beat, going after that and learning about the companies that do that work and following it, and finding a place that's overlap of what's needed, what one is good at, and what's available. Going from there, be persistent. This journey of mine for the last 9 years doing this work, it's a small group of us working against, trying to shift a massive thing, as we all are. And it's hard work, and if you don't love it, it's hard to get up in the morning. And even then, you sometimes question sanity, And it's really important to love the work and be persistent and just keep at it every day.
Thank you, it's very well said. So firstly, we'll have a question about, do we foresee corporations and big companies, how do they play in the world of impact, especially humanitarian impact, grassroots, on the roots, on the ground impact? How do those tie together? Well, I see that in a very positive light, especially through our own experiences. Our first big backer was Cisco, through their Global Problem Solver Challenge. We were one of their winners. And that whole challenge was specifically for youth innovators too. So a lot of corporations are turning to youth for solutions and answers to how to solve the world's biggest issues, because, you know, young people have a fire in their belly and they're born into this world of inequality and injustice, and they see it. We see it. And corporations are recognizing that, which is really exciting. And they're making it accessible through competitions, through outreach, and so much more. So we're very grateful for that. Samsung's also been a big help for us too, and a few other corporations also. So we really see that corporations and such youth-led grassroots, boots on the ground organizations coming together to create this big change. Because as I said before, we need everyone at the table. And then in terms of, if you are someone who cares a lot about changing this world, especially as, it's harder to sit and watch, this world on fire. It's tough. So many people today want to do something, but it's really hard to know, where do I start? Do I have to go start a company? That's tough. What do I do? Well, my biggest advice is, reach out to the organizations that you see doing the good work. For example, most of our teammates, I actually didn't go out to recruit them. They pitched us. They reached out to us and gave these huge long pitches on why they're the best people to work for us. And feel free to just cold email these organizations you look up to. You'll be surprised at the replies. So cold email them, tell them how you're going to change the world with them, and there's a chance someone's going to reply. And, you're going to live a life of impact every day. So go for it.
For that. We're kind of reaching the close of our panel. Before we open it up to questions, what is the one thing that each of our distinguished panelists want our audience members to take away from either the word social impact or the space social impact? So I invite you to share that. You shared some advice, but what's the biggest takeaway?
I'm not sure if it's the biggest, but it's the one that's just coming up right now. It's how we do the work is as important as what we do. It really is. It's about the process and how we treat each other, how we show up at the office, and if we want to change the world for better, we better do that too. It sounds a little cliche, but it's really true, and building that culture does have that ripple effect. And it's working at that at the personal level as well.
Thank you. My biggest words of wisdom is don't build a solution in silo. If you have an idea to change the world, don't just build it in Silicon Valley alone. Go reach to the regions you're looking to empower. Go talk to, if you're looking to empower people in your own backyard, spend time with them, talk to them, get to know them, live life with them, and really understand who they are, have them be part of your team in order to co-create the solution. And if you join the organization, if you build your own, communicate that. If you're part of a big corporation that's like, let's figure out how to empower this region and this place with this idea we have. Say, okay, let's all go and learn from them, listen to them, ask them questions, have them join us on this journey, have them be the ones who are leading this too. So that's my words, is assume nothing, listen, and co-create the solution.
I would say that from the investing world, if I can sort of leave you with any last thoughts here, I would say that if you're an investor and these things are important to you, be a disruptor. And I say that in this area because everybody knows when it's about disruption and the impacts that we have just from this part of the world have sort of echoed throughout the rest of the world as we were leading for the technology charge. But certain people that I talked to over the years have avoided certain investments because they haven't agreed with the way that investments have gone. For example, energy companies. And so instead of my advice would be, instead of avoiding things, get a voice, and get a voice by using this impact investing that we're doing now, environmental social governance. Because what happens is if you own 100 shares or 1,000 shares or maybe 100,000 shares, nobody really cares to hear from you. But when you're part of an organization that has a few million shares or is a top 10 holder, they want to hear your voice. They want to know what's important to you, and you can actually impact a lot that goes on. And so we're starting to do that, and we're starting to disrupt the industry. People are starting to make this environmental social governance mainstream. As of right now, and this just came out recently, 1 out of every $4 in the world now is going towards environmental social governance investment. That is big. That is really big. It's been mainstream for a while in the institutional space, and I think my journey and my mission really is to make sure that everybody knows about it as an individual investor. It shouldn't just be something that's accessible for big institutions. It should be accessible to everybody. So I would say, you can do that from going directly to our company, but there's very high minimums, or you can go to, a brokerage house like a Morgan Stanley or UBS or Merrill Lynch, and they've got these programs where you can invest alongside your values, which I think is really important in this day and age.
Thank you all for your sage advice. At this time, we'll take questions from the audience. Thank you so much for a very interesting and meaningful talk. I guess